G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video, and here we go with a brand new FIA Manufacturers Cup video here. Now, you might remember to the first race of the season where we were driving the Toyota Supra around Interlagos. We picked ourselves up a very good result, 248 points, which was very nice to see. So hopefully we can replicate that under Group 4 conditions, which we are here. We're at Sardegna C in the Ford's direction. In Group 4, of course, so of course, having chosen Toyota, the Group 4 car I'm using is the Toyota 86. But we come out for qualifying here. Of course, we're going to see the pace around this track here.
6.5 hours later.
Finally, get released from the pits. I'm plebbing at the back of the grid, using a PS4, but we go out for the qualifying session. We're going to try and get some slipstream, which is going to be important. So there's a lot of straight sections and flat out sections at this track here. 3 long flat out sections with three significant turns in between. The rest of the turns are all flat out, but we're grabbing a little bit of a toe off the back of Diego. Just coming over the crest just before turn 1. We are slightly up on our normal speed at the bottom of the straight, but the car completely does a little bit of wobble. And yeah, completely ruins my run through turn 1. So I decided to bin this lap off completely. I probably should have pulled over. But we're going to try that one again. We come out, and I decided here, I was looking up the mini-map and I'm seeing this the whole peloton, the main group of cars, sort of all coming around the final corner to start to finish their first flying lap. I messed mine up, so I decided to take a risk and thought, a load of them are going to come back to the pits. I'm going to go back, so cancel my second try, go back to the pits, wait for some people to come back into the pit lane, which I'm hoping they do. That's the risk I'm running. And hopefully we can get a bit of a tow. So someone goes out of the pits ahead, another Scirocco shows up, the Subaru exits. So that's kind of paid off. I have another chance of getting a slipstream run. So I could have stuck with my second attempt, but I would have gone around with no slipstream, and I kind of need it. Given this combination here. So we finally come around to start our first flying lap it's actually going to be our second flying lap on our third attempt at it, behind the Subaru. So I'm going to warm up the tyres a little bit so I don't have another wobble through turn 1, but I'm going to take you through a lap guide of Sardegna C in Group 4 here. Coming up towards turn 1, we're looking on the right hand side. It's just after the 100 metre board in slipstream. You can push that further back if you haven't got slipstream, and pull that further forward if you are in clear air. But turn 2 and 3 easily flat in Group 4. Coming up towards turn 4, probably just dropped out of the slipstream a little bit. Looking on the right hand side, there's a patch of light on the edge of the curb just after the 50 metre board. We're using that. 4th gear, you can run 2 wheels on the grass at the exit heading down the hill. Turn 5 is flat out. Turn 6 is flat out. Turn 7 is this shallow left-hander here. And then turn 8 is this right-hander here. Keep it tight, braking just before the end of the fence on the right-hand side. Keep it tight to the right portion so you get a nice run through the left, which is the more important corner. Having the big long straight following. Picking up little licks, slipstream off the back of the Subaru. Pole is a 55.7. Come across the line, 56.6. 18th position. Not good, so let's try that one again. We were a little bit wide off turn 1. Braking just after the 100 metre board, of course. Let's see if we can get close to the apex. You get a little bit too close to the apex that time, but I think that was overall slightly better than the previous run. But the sector split is until after turn 4, just as we start to go downhill. So let's have a look. Coming around the corner, Subaru is wide off the track. But luckily he was ghosted, didn't appear that he was. We're slightly up on our time by 0.03 of a second, 32 thousandths of a second to be precise. Coming around turn 8, keep it nice and tight, hopefully get the braking in the apex of this corner a little bit better. Nah, we slide wide a little bit off the apex there. So that corner has like a crest in the road, and it's really awkward to get the car slowed up and rotated, but that's going to be a pretty poor run onto the straight, and it is. 2 tenths down. So that's qualifying done and dusted. We're in 18th. Let's see where that puts us once everyone else finishes their laps here. It actually puts us 19th. I'm just going to wish Furby a good race. shout out to Furby. Check out his channel, I'll link it in the description, as we mentioned that he's fast and to have a good race. But yes, 19th. But let's not dwell on that for now. Let's just enjoy the Manufacturer Series introduction. So, here we go, from the back of the grid, not great. Let's see how this goes. And first of all, we'll have a look at how far down the grid, how long it takes, and how painful it is to see my car at the back of the grid. Right, so the race hasn't even started and I'm already not having a good time, but let's start the race off here. We're starting before the final corner, much to my dismay, it being a rolling start. I don't know why they just don't go with the rolling start they use at the World Tours where everyone is much closer, or just go with the standing start. I wouldn't mind if standing starts were a flat rule in this game, to be honest. But this rolling start it is, and we've dropped out of the slipstream. So I'm going to discuss I've got a bit of time at the start of this race. I'm out of the slipstream. There's no way I'm catching Furby, who's currently in it. At the moment, if they begin to fight up ahead, I might catch back up. But we'll see how we go. So I'm going to discuss a few things that have been on my mind at the moment with this game. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to have a bit of a discussion, or just promote some discussion down in the comments. There's a couple of things going on with this game at the moment that I want to talk about. So, first of all, penalty system. It's elephant in the room, basically. I don't know what is happening with it at the moment, but it appears at the moment the penalties have been turned off for the most part. You can still get yourself a penalty, obviously. Track limits are still as they were, but it's the contact penalties I'm talking about. So you remember what the penalty system was like. It was absolutely shocking. You couldn't race because you grazed somebody. Even there's instances where people went very close, didn't even make contact, and penalties were awarded to players. I don't know how they get away with that for so long, because that was happening for months. But there was an adjustment, and now we're here where we at now. There's no penalties. There's punting going on. If you absolutely nuke someone, you can get a penalty. But at the moment, as far as bumping people wide or whatever, lobbing one up in the inside at corners with contact, there's no penalties given for that. And honestly, for me, I would rather there be no penalties like it is now, because I know the alternative is the terrible penalties, the race-ruining penalties that were in the game previously. So, I'd like to hear about your thoughts down in the comments. Have there been any incidents that you've had related to the penalty system? Do you think it's good? Do you like it the way it is? Or do you have the same reservations I do? I know that the two alternatives is this or extreme penalties. I would prefer this, what it is now, but that's not saying I like it. It's just saying out of the options I'm given, it's the best option. Yellow flag out in the race. Come around the corner. Yeah, there's no car here. That's definitely just a recovering car ahead of the field. But with that, let's talk about the FIA as well. So, it's in a bit of a weird spot at the moment. We've had about 3 exhibition series, one after the other, obviously because there's no official season yet. Official seasons always lead up to a World Tour, so the fact that there's no World Tour scheduled means that there can't really be an official season. But let's hope we see that this year. Hopefully the World Tours return and the official seasons return. But I guess the last thing I've got to discuss is the time slots for manufacturers. So for me, where I am, this is of course all relative. The first manufacturer's slot isn't until 8 o'clock at night, and then they're in 1 hour and 20 minute increments after that, 5 slots. The last slot is 20 past 1 in the morning. That's so late. No one is racing at 1 o'clock in the morning. From a business perspective, you got to remember Polyphony Digital is a business. You want the most people possible to be able to play your game. If you limit that by having those time slots so late, you all of a sudden lose a massive chunk of players that want to play in the afternoon. I realise you're not going to please everybody, but you have to, it makes sense in my mind, logically, that you want the most people possible to be able to play. And the fact that you're only catering to the people that can race extremely late at night, maybe people can't do that. Maybe people have night shifts for work and want to race maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We used to be able to do that. There used to be a slot at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it sort of finished up at about, I think the last slot was like 20 past 10 or something. That, I reckon, is ideal, because you're catering to the people that can race in the afternoon, you're catering to the people that can't race in the afternoon, that therefore have to race in the night. You're not catering for the people that can only race in the mornings, but at the end of the day, there's going to be more players in general wanting to play later in the day into the evening than there are earlier in the morning. Because most people wake up in the morning, they have to take their kids to school or go to work or whatever. The majority of people want to play after work, so in the afternoon or in the evening after the kids go to bed. So that's why it was a good mix to have that 4 o'clock race. So you could have, school-age kids coming home from school. You could do a couple of races before a reasonable bedtime. And same with working people, working people. So you go to work in the morning, come home at maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, you could have a race and then make dinner. But the Nations Cup, 8 o'clock, it's so late. School-age kids can't race. Day shift, night shift workers can't race. It's a bit of an issue. Then you got Nations Cup, 3 slots. Ridiculous. There's just not enough slots. Give us 5. I've heard people talk about bring back one shot. So there was a season they did a couple of years ago where you could only participate in 1 race per round, and that was it. You weren't able to enter anymore once you entered one. And I understand the appeal of that, and I'm happy to hear people argue for that point, but I don't think that's the right idea, because one shot, if you get disconnected, that's it. You've entered your slot, you can't enter anymore. I get that's realistic to real life. I get that in real life you can have a mechanical failure just before a race, and then that's your weekend gone, or week gone, or race gone, or whatever it might be. But this isn't real life. This is a game. We want to be able to just jump on and play the game. The fact that we do have to wait for time slots, which I get is unavoidable because everyone is racing online and you want the races to be populated. But the fact that we are already waiting for a time slot, the fact that it could get limited to just one of those, and that's it, might be a bit of a problem. But I don't know. I think that's enough talking about the ins and outs of the game. It could potentially be a whole video I could make on the issues in Gran Turismo Sport. But let's just focus back on the race here. We've caught up to Fat Furby. He's also caught up to Taku Chon in the Mercedes AMG SLS. But let's see if we can duck into the slipstream, which we have here. We're stuck right at the back here, and I can tell this Mercedes up ahead, if you've been watching the footage in the background, is kind of holding Furby up a little bit. And I know that if they're both held up ahead of me for long enough, they'll lose touch of the pair in 15th and 16th. So I thought, I've got to go past Furby because I want to get past this Mercedes before we lose touch of the other Toyota. And I can't make out what car 15th is driving, but let's see what we can do here. So we got past Furby cleanly at turn 1, and we're just going to head down the hill in the slipstream of the Mercedes, and this is where the issues in this race really continue. I was going to say begin, but they've already begun with my shocking qualifying. But we're going to watch how much this Toyota just absolutely struggles here, and this is where the title of the video comes from. This car here is simply off the pace. This is not the right track for this car, and there's nothing I can really do. It's so difficult because look, I was in the slipstream of the Mercedes. He's got slipstream ahead of me. I was falling back. There's no way I can keep up with this car. As long as it's got slipstream, as long as the Mercedes has slipstream, there's no way I can catch up to it down the straights. So that rules that out as an overtaking opportunity. Next thing is the corners. Turns 2 and 3, the exit of turn 1 basically, there's no overtaking here. Turn 4, it's too tight, too fast a corner, there's not really a long enough braking zone to get a move. Turn 5, 6, 7, 8 is all single file stuff, there's no going side by side through here. And then turn 9, which is this corner here, there's no way to get up the inside because you take turn 8 nice and tight, which means the gap that you want to send a move up the inside for turn 9 is on the other side of the racetrack and you could potentially have a car in front of you. It's also a really awkward braking zone with people braking at different opportunities. Some people lift through the right hand, some people stay flat and brake on the end of the fence, which is what I like to do, or some people lift slightly, some people roll into it and brake slightly later, some people take a tight line, some people take a wide line, a mid-apex, a late apex, a wide exit. There's so many variables with that turn 9 that it's so difficult to make a move up. And, you know, that really compounds the issue with the Toyota here. This is a handling car, so somewhere like Laguna Seca, somewhere with short straights, this car is going to be pretty good. But here, there's no real handling sections that are viable to get an overtake. The best thing I can do is stick right under someone's rear wing, down the main straight, and go for a dive into turn 1. That's about the only way I can get past somebody here, or if they make a mistake otherwise. Even if you make a mistake down that fast downhill section, there's still not a way past because it's so tight. You're basically threading the needle down there, and that's kind of what is going on with this race here. You can see I'm having so much trouble making inroads to this pair up ahead, or I guess the Mercedes is what I'm trying to overtake. But I can tell you, it may not look it, but I was pushing the car as hard as I could. I was going, you know, I was pretty much driving pretty close to 100%, or as close as possible given the tyre wear. So the fact that I am just struggling so much to overtake this Mercedes, it's just really, really disheartening and painful. And I don't know, you know, when I was doing this race, I wasn't exactly 100% sure on whether I could trust the Mercedes driver, because there was there's a couple of little bits of contact here and there, and, you know, I wouldn't call him a dirty driver. It's just, I don't know, could I trust him to perhaps try to go for a move into the final corner? I don't know. I don't know how much I'm enjoying following it. So the fact I've also got car number 1, and I'm trundling down here in 18th. You saw in the previous manufacturer's video at Interlagos that, you know, I was able to drive up the front of the field. The fact, and that was when the lobby placed me further back. You know, in the initial entering the lobby, waiting for other players to get ready, it places you in order of DR. That's how that initial grid before qualifying is sorted out. I was mid-pack back of the field, and I was able to qualify at the front of the field and stay at the front of the field, bring home a good result. Here, I was placed in terms of DR at the front, qualified at the back, trundling at the back. And honestly, it's partly, I would say it's kind of partly on me, because I initially looked at this combination and thought, look at this track, there's 9 turns in, what is it, a 2.6 kilometre long circuit. That's so many corners. Handling circuit, that just points to handling circuit. All those corners in such a short distance points to handling. But this track, it's got 3 braking zones, and honestly, 2 of them, you're not really braking for long enough to get a move. So you got 1 main overtaking opportunity, the rest is just waiting for a mistake, and there's half the circuit where a mistake can get made and you can't even make your way past, which is this downhill section here. The only place I really gain is through turn 1, but because there's a power section following, I'm not able to get anything done. Furby makes his way past there, so we're deep into the race now, and you can see my tyre wear. We'll just discuss strategy quickly. There's actually 2 tyre compounds available for this race, soft and medium, but only the medium tyre is mandatory, and they've recently changed the pit loss times. They're massive. You lose about 30 seconds in a pit stop here, and that ranges, you know, remember Laguna Seca from those couple of FIA races about a year ago, and how massive the pit loss was there? Yeah, well, that's all circuits now, and I don't even want to imagine what the pit loss at Laguna Seca will be now, but, you know, we all complained that the pit loss there was so long. There are, in fact, people taking the tyre penalties to just avoid a pit stop at Laguna Seca, if you remember that. That's what prompted the change to a 1 minute penalty instead of 20 seconds. But that's all circuits, so we don't have to pit for the soft tyre. It's not a mandated tyre, the medium is. It's so. In this race, it was quicker to avoid the pit stop altogether and do the entire race in the slower compound than it was to do one lap on medium or whatever it might be, and do a pit stop and use the soft tyre. I don't understand the reasoning behind that. I don't know why you would remove strategy from races, because we really need it. You know, we overtake with strategy, that's what we do, but I don't know. It's I'm not polyphony, but I've got a lot to say apparently. But this is when this race takes an even further plunge downhill, and I'm not talking about this sweet sequence here. I completely bin it on the exit of turn 4. I just get too far on the grass. You want 2 wheels on the grass in the exit there, but I think I went a little bit too far, pushed a little bit too wide. I had the double slipstream, so there was probably a little bit of dirty air there, but man, this race was just not for me. And just real quickly, we're going to see the reason not to pit, as the person ahead of me, he was 4 seconds ahead of me, went into the pits. He comes out 16 seconds behind, so that's 20 seconds. So it's not like, 30 seconds is a bit of an overreaction, but it's at least a 20-second pit loss, and that's absolutely ridiculous. And I was just trundling down 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds off the guy in 17th. The guy that pitted behind me, he caught up a little bit because of the fresh tyres, but there's no way to gain here, because there's three corners basically where you're pushing on the tyres. Otherwise, all the cars are even in terms of tyre compound. But that was really it for the racing, in terms of the real racing at least. Guy in 17th, I'm pretty sure he slowed down on the exit of turn 4 on the previous lap, lap 22. Pretty sure he slowed down for me just to have a race, and honestly, you know, I could kind of respect that, to be honest. This race was awful. This race was crap. I didn't do another one. This is the only race I did. But we can at least have a race with this Mercedes. Now, there's no reason to not be fighting. There's no way we're catching 16th. It's either 17th or 18th, or if we completely bin it, 19th, I suppose. But he's 15 seconds behind now. He's obviously made a mistake, because he was 8 seconds before, but there's really no risk of losing any more positions. There's only a position to gain for me up into 17th, so it's kind of a no holds barred, no consequence fight here, as long as you don't ram each other off, which should obviously not be good. But let's see what we can do, I guess. So he doesn't have slipstream now. I'm able to stick much closer to him on the exit of turn 1, which is about the only place I can gain in this car compared to others. Coming up towards turn 4, this is the issue. The corner following, or the braking zone, or the spot where it's possible to get a move, following the portion of the track where I'm strong, it's so difficult to get past at the best of times. Don't know what that was. I think his brake lights came on momentarily heading down the hill, so a little bit of a brake check, not too sure. But that's just pushed him way up the road. I was right behind his rear wing, and about the only portion of the track where I could possibly got past before the end of the race was at turn 1, so I needed to be as close as possible. But the fact that he it looked like a brake check to me. The brake lights came on down the hill. I don't know, it's flat out, you're not braking down the hill, but he's way up ahead. I do have the slipstream still, but this Toyota, no grunt. It's so difficult. You can see I catch up ground under braking, and on the exit I'm able to kind of keep the gap, and I've closed it down to about 4.5 tenths, but that was kind of the only overtaking opportunity. The last thing I've got is to hang wide through turn 8 and dive up the inside at turn 9. It's a very dangerous move, as you know, the Mercedes could turn into the corner and not see me coming up the inside, and we can make contact. But we'll see how we go as we head down the hill. See, look at that, easily flat out. There's no reason to be braking unless he made a mistake. But coming up towards turn 8, flat out for as long as possible, I look up the inside and I'm not quite able to get it, and just on the exit, a little bit of oversteer, but I'm going to get the slipstream on the way. But of course the Mercedes, being that strong in a straight line, it's to no avail, and well, that's it. I bring it home in 18th. What a disaster. But the reason I made a video on this is because I think it's important to show the bad as well as the good. I had a nice good result. at both Fuji in the GR Yaris and Interlagos in the Supra for manufacturers. I think it's important to show that I'm not strong everywhere. I'm still a human at the end of the day. Not saying that the way I drive is alien, but humans make mistakes, I make mistakes. You know, maybe that combination wasn't right for my car, but I gave it a go, jumped in. I can't really say I did my best. I made a mistake at turn 4 on lap 15, spun out. I could have gone again and tried to iron out that mistake, but I was really done with that race. There was not much fun to be had. I wanted that race to be over. As soon as I spun out, I was honestly 2 seconds off quitting, but I knew that it'd look worse, so I just thought, we'll go to the end. Made up that one position, so I finished 18th after qualifying 19th, so I guess it could be worse, but that race was just not for me. And I don't know how well the next Group 4 race in manufacturing is going to be either, because we're at Mount Panorama next time we're in Group 4, which is, oh man, another power track. So I'll jump in and give that a go, see how we go, but I'm not expecting too much. Don't know how good this season is for Toyota, especially the Group 4 races, but we'll see how we go. Next manufacturer's race is at Spa in the wet in Group 3, so we're going to be driving the Supra. Don't know how good that car is in the wet, so it's looking like a tough end of the season after what was a pretty strong start. But nevertheless, I do hope you enjoyed this one, even though it was kind of a bit of a dud, a bit of a downer, not a great performance. But nevertheless, do hit that like button if you enjoyed. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. Do leave a comment as well. Questions, comments, constructive criticism as always, very much appreciated. But that's the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.